That followed our previous tutorial, we created this Tryout VS Code folder where we put in the code that we use to test out VS Code. So today we want to create our first HTML document, and I'm going to teach you what all about tags, HTML tag, body tag, head tags, and everything that is in between. But to do that, we don't need to use this folder for that. So the folder I'll be creating will be useful throughout this series. All the files that we'll be creating, all the HTML files that we'll be creating, every code that we'll be writing will go into that file. So we have to just go ahead and create it. I will go ahead and create a folder that we would use. So I will name this folder web dev. I right click and go to new, and in new I look for folder, and let's call this web dev. Like when you're naming your folder, it's really important you don't keep spaces, because in web development you always need to reference things and spaces don't really work with it. Later on you know what, but it's good practice for you to not have spaces between the words when you're naming a folder. So having done that, let's go ahead and open Visual Studio, but I would like to have my Visual Studio on the taskbar. So let me drag and drop it there. So now it is pinned to the taskbar. So let's open a new window. Right click and go to new window. Well, if you were not on the new window, you could choose to just click on this when you get here, exit whatever interface you have already. You probably will have the Tryout VS Code folder there, so just exit it and come to file. Even if you don't exit, just come to file and go to open folder. In folder, go to the folder you want to save your files to, which is web dev. Then come here and select folder. So in web dev, we want to create index.html. So it's really, yes, index.html. So here I'm going to show you some of the basic tags in HTML and how it's being used. I'm going to tell you the concept of tags, what tags are, and how to use it. So we are going to learn a lot. Stay tuned and please watch carefully. So the first thing you write out in any HTML file is the doc type HTML. Do not forget there is an exclamation mark before doc type, and write that out. Then this is followed by the wrapper of the whole page content, which is HTML tag or HTML element. The HTML element, we open it by writing HTML and then close. Now the HTML element wraps two things, which is the head and the body. It wraps the head and the body. So let's just write that out. Remember, the head and the body are also elements. So inside the head we have metadata, data that you will not see. We will not go too in depth into what the kind of tags and elements that are going to the head file. We just have a basic tag that we need, very important. We have to title our web page, so we call this index. Now in the body tag you could have many other tags, and some of them are really popular, like the paragraph tag, the heading tag, and so on and so forth. But before then, I would like to address an issue. During this program, you're going to see something. So it's not a new concept, actually. It's called nesting. Nesting is when you put something inside something. So it's like you have the head tag, head element, and it contains the title element. Just like the HTML contains two nested elements, or has two nested elements inside it. So it has an element, it is nesting, which is the head and the body, while the head nests its own element, which is the title. So in the body, we want to nest some elements which are essential and will always dwell in the body. The first one is the heading tag. So for this, we want to call it my first. We want to title it, give it a header of my first HTML, my first web page, my first web page. H1, my first web page. So you might be asking, what is the tag H1? H1 is really like header tag. Just imagine when you're writing an essay, you give different importance to different headers. Or let's say you're writing an essay or a letter, you give different priorities to different headers, or you make some headers bigger and some smaller depending on what exactly they are doing in the page. So H1 is to define a header that is really important, or the most important header in the entire web page. Now we have H2, H3, and so on and so forth. So let's say my first web page, and then let's move on to another kind of element you might have in the body tag, nested under the body tag, which is the paragraph tag. So in this paragraph tag, let's write a little thing. Let's write something simple like P, hello, I'm beginning, I am starting my web development I'm learning web development with M and P basics. Now that you have that, you could also have a tag that describes a list, a tab that you use to list. Just imagine, let's say you've used Microsoft Word or Google Docs. Some of the things you want to write out on your page or on the document, on the pages, could be a list. So you want to list out things. Now there are different kinds of lists you might have. Those ones that are bulleted without numbering or without lettering, so it doesn't follow any specific order. And we have that also in HTML. So you could say unordered list and ordered list. So the tag for unordered list is this. Now you don't go ahead and just write out everything that you want to list out here. So in the unordered list, you would have another element nested inside it, which is called the list. So it's like saying, okay, this is an ordered list, and these are the list items. So for each list item, you want to wrap that item in a list. So let's write an P paragraph tag just above the UL tag to describe what we want to do. So let's call this P. Here are my goals for this learning journey. So let's list out some of your goals. You could write any one you want. So here you have an li tag. You say to get a job, a web development job in 3 months. To understand how the web works, to get a tech skill. So later on, I'm going to display this. So we now have the unordered list. So here we could also have an ordered list, still with the same list items. So let's copy this, and then let's have an ordered list. Well, just after this, I'm going to show you a few things. I'm going to open the browser so we see the difference. So a quick recap so you recall. We have the doc type, start with that. The HTML, we have the head. The HTML nests the head and the body. The head nests title and the body nests so many other elements. And I've mentioned many of them, like the H1 which defines a header and the P1 and the P which defines a paragraph. We could have as many of them, and we can have just one of it as well. And we have the UL tag which describes an unordered list and OL which describes ordered list. Now, to explain the unordered and ordered list wouldn't really make sense without actually viewing it on the browser. So we have to go to the browser. But before we go to the browser, we have to save so it can be reflected. So we have to Control S, and this is saved, and we can now navigate to our browser. Let's go to the browser, to the file, and access it on the. So as you can see, the first one is bulleted, and the second one is not bulleted, so it is numbered. Hello, and you see the H1 tag is being highlighted, bold. It's being highlighted. It's made to feel bold and to show, oh, I'm the header, and the paragraph tags are kept plain and as simple as possible. Now, at least you can see the difference between the ordered and unordered list. This is the unordered list, the ones with the dots, and this, or the ones with the numbers, are the ordered list in that fashion. So let's talk about something else we might have. So I'm going to minimize all of this and then go back to our code editor. In the code editor, we'll talk about something. Let's say, so you want people who visit this page to know more about you. But the know more about you is maybe on your social media handle, or it is on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, and you have the link that should be able to direct people to that place. You could just define an element that allows people to click on it and it will take them to that page. And that element is called the anchor tag, but it is just an hyperlink actually. But the name for it is officially is an anchor tag, and it is being described by defined like this. So the A tag is the anchor tag. But usually you're not going to use the A tag just outside the body. You might want to use it inside a P tag or something else. So it's very possible you say P, okay, gets to know more about me. Here. So this here, we want it so that if people click on here, it takes them to the place where they will know about me. So let's create an anchor tag that will do just that for us. So A, now let's write here. And let me remove this stuff you see here because I'm still going to put it, but I have to explain it before I put it there. Let's go back, let's save and go back to our browser. Hopefully you didn't completely close it. If you minimize it, you could come to the tags bar. But if you didn't minimize it, just go back and follow the same process we did for the first time we opened the browser. It will work exactly the same. So let's go here and let's refresh. Remember to refresh. Now see, we have the here. It is being wrapped in an anchor tag, but nothing exactly has happened. Let's see what happens if we give it a place we want it to go to. So now to give this anchor tag a place we want it to redirect our users to, or a place we want it to send our users to, you could use something like google.com. So let's say that my information that I want people to know about me is on Google. So we just define that by href google.com. Now let's make this small letter so that it's consistent. So we have google.com. Now let's see the difference between this and the previous one. So we go back to our browser and then we refresh. Now you see that it is highlighted in blue. This shows that now we can actually go to this particular link. We can go to this particular link. So let's access google.com. Now, we are not able to access google.com because it expects to find a google.com on our folder. So read this. You have this file user. This is the link to the folder that contains web in the web dev folder, and it's expecting to find google.com there. Now, you don't really have to understand that, but let's make it so that it actually goes to google.com. So we have to go back, and let's make it go to google.com. To make it go back to google.com, as you can see, just type out the URL, the full URL, with the HTTPS, this colon, and the 2 www.google.com. Now, if you do not use the HTTPS and the fort, you're not going to be able to access it. So now you really have to save this document for each of the processes you've done so far. If you haven't saved, you might run into challenges. So save the document by doing Ctrl S. Now, you know if it is saved if this shows a cancel sign on top here. So on this index.html, it should show a cancel sign. If it shows the round button sign, then if it shows the dots, then it hasn't saved. So you just have to click Ctrl S and get it saved. Now we can navigate back to our browser and try to refresh and then see if you can access google.com. So we do not have it here, so I just have to access it manually again. Go, click. Now since we are accessing it manually again, we don't have to refresh. See, if we click on here now, it should take us to google.com. So let's click here. Now it takes us to google.com. This would be the similar stuff that will happen if you used your own portfolio, but more on that later. And probably in the course of this lesson, you'll be able to create as many websites as you want to, and you would use it in the real sense. But now you could see how it works. It actually takes us to google.com when we click here. So that's it for today, but I'll have to recap a little bit. So we have tags elements in HTML. Usually it begins with the doc type on top, the doc type declaration, then the HTML element. The HTML element has nest element under it, which is the head, the body. And I talked about nesting as being inside another element. So if you put an element inside an element, the term for that in web development is that it's nested an element inside an element. So you could actually play around with this. So ask yourself, in the head tag, which tag is being nested in the head tag? It is the title tag. What tags are being nested in the body tag? You see a lot of them. Does the body tag have tags that have nested items? Yes. So one of those items is the URL. It has a nested item of the list items. And you can see, right? So let's go to something else. I said the A tag is not always standing alone most of the time. So it's always used with other elements. So you could have it being wrapped. So I'm going to highlight all of this so you see where it ends. So get to know more about me, A tag, and then the name of the A tag, like the contents of the A tag, a anchor tag, A tag, anchor tag, hyperlink, whichever one is convenient with you, you could use. So I said we actually demoed how this could work and when it doesn't work. So if you don't want to give it an href attribute, this is called an attribute. If you do not give it an href attribute, it's not going to take you anywhere. But then when you give it an href attribute, it's able to actually route you to a particular link that you want it to take you to. It could be a file here, or it could be just google.com or your own website or an external website. That being said, that is all that we have for today. Keep following this channel. Please subscribe, like, and share so that you can see more videos and you can actually you could actually learn more about web development. Thank you.